Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Crystal Clear. I have the beautiful Miss Mrs. Kayla Fite with me today.
Official.
It's official. She is former fitness model, health advocate, still health advocate,
Yes.
health coach, mental health advocate. Welcome.
Thank
Kayla.
you. I'm excited. Like I said, when I walked in, we're just having a normal conversation, just being recorded today.
That's
That's
absolutely
what we
right.
talk about. Yeah.
So you have a podcast of your own,
I do.
which I'm excited to introduce my
Mhm.
listeners to because I think it's very, very well connected and vibey. And you've been doing this for how long now?
My podcast was started in 2021. So,
It's
3
been
years. Yeah.
Awesome. And it's
I
Habits
think
You
it's
Love.
2021. Maybe
Which
2022. Hold on. No. 2022. 2022. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah,
22
2022.
is my favorite number. And that's awesome. It's a new beginnings number. So that's perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. So tell us about Habits You Love.
Yeah, so I started Habits You Love. I actually had another podcast with a girlfriend. That one was called It Doesn't End Here. I believe it's still up and running, but not active, not like
Right.
current. Her and I decided to share a crazy relationship story that I had. It's a very toxic relationship. She had the idea, she's like, you need to share this story. So we just did it kind of just for fun. And it actually ended up being very healing for me to actually
Yeah.
like get it all out. There was a lot of I think just like a lot of things that I felt like I was hiding from the world during that time. And I was like, this is kind of just my opportunity to say, okay, look, like this actually wasn't all what it appeared to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so we shared that. So after doing that, I was like, wow, I really like podcasting. And I was
Right.
seeing a lot of the results and it was helping so many people. We're getting so many messages. Um, and so when I did that, I was like, okay, obviously that was just about that relationship, but I had so many other things I wanted to talk about. She wasn't interested in expanding the podcast any further. So I was like, you know what? I'll just do it. So I started Habits You Love. It's funny because the first 10 episodes, I wanted to make it like an audiobooks sort of style. So like each chapter or each episode is a chapter. So I said
I love
chapter
that.
1 through 10. And it just kind of goes through my story. What I loved about it is I kind of shared everything. And then the episodes to follow were kind of like dissecting things from those episodes.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's
Very
just like,
intentional.
here's everything. And then now we're going to kind of go back and like do deeper dives into other topics of my life, like as, mental health. My parents had some mental health issues, the relationship, divorce, just certain things of my life. So that's how it got started. I really never intended it to keep going this far. But then like 6 months in, I had someone actually reach out, a company, they wanted to um be the liaison between my podcast and sponsors. So now I have sponsor. The podcast is sponsored. So now not only do I have to keep up with it, but I still like to.
But it's transitioned a little bit over the
Yeah.
years. So tell me about this
Oh
transition.
yeah. So at first it was just mine, Habits You Love. And then December of 2023 last year, Tyler and I, my now husband, we're really good about bantering about
Right.
just topics like this and kind of diving deep, and we have really good conversation. And I kind of got tired of just talking to myself in a
Right.
dark closet. So I was like, what about being my co-host? So now, yeah, I used to have a ton of guests on, but now it's mainly just us two when we sit down and we just kind of talk about current topics. And it's funny because I'm more so like, what's the theme of this episode? And he's more so like, just wants to free flow and talk, kind of like Joe Rogan style.
Yeah.
And I'm more like, okay, we're going to have a theme. We're going to have like a introduction, a climax, an ending. And he doesn't really like that, but whatever. I try.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the best of both worlds. You can still have that for your part of it.
Yeah.
And then he can kind of free flow and
Yeah.
flow along with that. I love it.
So I'll do a little bit more just guests by myself, or I'll repurpose episodes like this with on other people's podcasts. And yeah, it's like fitness, wellness, relationship, a little bit of parenthood, and kind of just about us and our crazy stories.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love that you're doing it together. And I think it's a really great example of being open to evolve. Like as your life evolves, your podcast evolves. Even like when I started this one, it was about similar. Like I
Mm.
wanted to unravel and share like this PTSD journey. Like, oh my God, like
Mhm.
how did I have PTSD? But then it's like you think about it, it's like, okay, well, constant survival mode, all of that. So the first season was a lot of unraveling that, the micro healing, and a lot of things that have to do with that. So I cut it off over the summer just to have
Mhm.
some intentional time for myself and my family and prioritize
Yeah.
and realize I really missed it. And that was one thing. It's like a verbal journal. Like you said, it's very
Mm.
healing.
Mhm.
It helps to process. So many people responded so well to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not keep it going? So this version, I feel like, is a little bit more empowerment, accountability, and all the things that went into season one, but a little less. I don't want to be redundant. I want to keep things new and
Yeah.
keep things fresh and different guests or maybe even some of the same guests that have evolved in their own journeys
Mm.
and stuff like that. So I'm excited because we've
Yeah.
talked about doing this for a
Yes.
while.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
excited that we're here.
Yay. Kind of what I realized was, as your podcast will evolve
Yeah.
and mine, is that I really got tired of sharing that side of the story
Right.
of like, I'm in it. Like
Right.
I'm still in it. I like sharing the other side of the story where like
Right.
I've been through it and this is what I did to now get on the other side and
Mm-hmm.
kind of the way I got through it. So that's why I like to continue because it's like, because sometimes I would share something I was going through in that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, okay, guys, well, now I'm on the other side of it and I want to share this side of the story now.
Yeah.
So,
I love that you say that. I
yeah.
actually did that last time I came into film. Like I had
Yeah.
this whole intention of recapping my Italy retreat and the hurricane situation. And I came in and I'm like, I cried over a fucking salad today. Like my husband accidentally took the salad I prepped and I ended up crying after a cold plunge. And I'm like, I don't think my nervous system was ready for the cold
Yeah.
plunge. Like I think I needed to regulate, but
Yeah.
it was real time. And then I'm like, okay, having that aside,
Mhm.
because I think people appreciate that like real time
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Yeah.
And if you keep recapping what's happened, it keeps you stuck there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was kind of my intention for revamping and coming back in. Like, yes, I want podcasting to still continue in this stage, this chapter. Is it going to last forever? Who knows? Whatever. It'll
can
ebb and
evolve into
flow.
something
Yeah,
else.
it'll
Yeah.
ebb and flow as it's supposed to. But really just like, what is this part of it? It's more of the empowerment. It's coming out on the other side of it. Just like you said, it's moving forward and being in the present moment and not always looking back.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
understanding that, okay, if I have some stuff come up, is there some things in the past that may be triggering the turbulence or
Yes,
whatever?
of
Okay,
course.
acknowledge, let it go.
Yeah.
Because if you stay stuck there, then you stay stuck up here.
Yes.
And that's something that I've worked so hard to come out of, is
Yeah.
being stuck in my own head because
Yeah.
it was like my own worst enemy, self-sabotage, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So being able to recognize that and having the awareness and just coming out and giving yourself permission to move on.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we feel like we go through things and like we become detached from it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like
Yeah.
healthy detachment is appropriate for growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
So-
yeah. Oh my gosh. You're speaking my language.
Yes.
With everything that I just went through. But kind of going back to something you said and what was I gonna say? I can't remember.
That's okay. It'll come back.
Mom brain is kicking in.
That's
Mom
okay.
brain's kicking in.
And you're a new mommy. So
Yes,
that's a
new mom. I have a almost 8-month-old. Yeah, he's the best.
So how do you feel like you have changed in that 8 months?
I mean, I definitely have learned a lot of patience. I feel like I'm more empathetic and compassionate, which is
Mhm.
something that I still need to work on a lot. I think maybe I had a baby to be able to do that in a way. Just be a little bit more slowed down, calm down. And he's taught me so much. And it's just about like, wow, I'm really enjoying now more of the present moment instead of always being in this hustle. What's next for me? It's like, wow, I just want to like hang out with my baby kind of and not
Right.
worry about so many other things. So I think, yeah, he's taught me patience, empathy, and compassion. Like Tyler will say, like I cried when he was about 1 month old because he was getting something done and I was really crying, which, you cry with
Yeah.
your baby and all that.
Yeah.
But he was like, he's just like, I really don't see you be empathetic too much. And that's to see you
Mhm.
cry over that. He was like, I was kind of shocked. And I was like, I'm changing. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, it does. I mean, chemically you
Yeah,
change, hormonally you
yeah,
change,
yeah.
physically you change,
Yes.
and it's getting back to that like who am I now? And I know
Mm.
when I was pregnant with Brody, after Brody, I mean, the world was still shut down after I had him. And it was like,
Mm.
what is this phase? And
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, my relationship went through some shit
Mm.
because it was like, who are we now? It's like,
Yeah.
not only am I evolving, but you're like, and you go back to old ways. And I was like, well, that doesn't really feel like it fits.
Mhm.
But it's kind
Mhm.
of fun at the time. And it's like, but what does the new life look like? And I don't think anyone knew
Yeah.
what life looked like at that point in time. But it's been same, like, Brody has taught me just to slow down and
Mm.
enjoy the now and to nurture myself and be more compassionate to
Mhm.
myself because
Yeah.
I'm historically have been pretty hard on myself. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like, discipline, but I've had rigid boundaries and where areas that I've noticed that even since my Italy trip, I came back to the 2 hurricanes and being sick and all kinds of other stuff. And Matt's like, "You really changed." I was like,
Wow.
"Really?" I was like, I think being gone, being out of it, and I was the longest time I've ever been away from my family,
Mhm.
it made me have just a greater appreciation and made me kind of, I don't know, I think it, like, turned on my mom, my
Yeah,
nurturing side. I'm
nurturing,
like, "Oh, I
yeah.
just wanna go home and make home cooked meals and blah, blah, blah," and it did, like, it really, I feel
Mm.
slower, like, I was sick for a while. I didn't work out, like, strength train for a whole month,
Mm.
which is probably the longest since,
Yeah.
like, ever.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
I'm
didn't care,
still
and I
yeah,
felt okay. Like,
yeah,
I was like, I felt less inflamed, actually,
yeah,
and with all the things going on, I think my cortisol levels were over to regulate because,
yeah,
like,
reset Italy
previous
did
to
a
me
little reset for
I did a
you,
little reset. It
which is
also gave me
probably
pneumonia, but that's okay.
that's a
That'll do
reset,
it
that's a
too.
reset too.
That'll do it
Get
too.
all those toxins out, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
but I think
Mhm.
surrendering to that and just being like, "You know what? I'm not gonna fight it. My
Mm.
body, mind, spirit, I'm not ready to bounce back into reality, and what the hell is
Mhm.
reality right now anyway?"
Right,
So,
my
you had some
mind
big events during that time,
yes,
so tell us a little
yes,
about that.
oh my gosh, okay, so we just did a podcast episode on this, if you wanna,
Yes.
add that in there, but we basically had to evacuate, our wedding. We had a wedding scheduled for 10/10/2024, which is the date that we've wanted to have, this whole time. We could have done it last year, but family stuff came up, plus I was pregnant, and I don't know, I just didn't envision
You
that.
wanna feel good about
Yeah,
yourself
I
on your
just didn't
wedding day.
envision that how it would turn out. So I don't know, all year we've had 10/10 and we've just been so excited about it. I it's so crazy because my vision that I had was actually coming to life like months and months and months. You just think about that.
Right.
And actually didn't think it would all turn out. And it was all turning out. It was like, wow, we got the beach. I have my family coming in town and all their kids can be in it, which is what I wanted. Um, the location, the dress, this I was super excited about walking out to this certain song. I would listen to the song and I would just visualize
Mhm.
how it was gonna turn out. And we were just excited. It was gonna be like 100 people there and our friends and family, just everyone we love coming to celebrate us. And it all went to crap, basically.
Actually had a hurricane hit
Y
that
Yes,
day.
yes,
That day.
yes. So I was like, "Okay, they say it's good luck if it rains on your wedding day, but what about a Category 4 hurricane? What does that mean? Is that really good or really bad?" So, well, we shall see. But yeah, we basically the weekend it hit on, the Wednesday, Thursday, the weekend before everything started to unravel.
Mhm.
And, if I believe a typical bride, probably this day and age, probably would have really freaked out. And
Oh,
maybe the
gotcha.
old me would have freaked out. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really that sentimental when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, I basically had to be to change all of our plans. We evacuated. We drove to the panhandle of Florida and long story short, we still ended up getting married on 10/10. But my sister got ordained on the internet. She flew in. We just got married, just us two and our baby, and my sister marrying us. And then two news crews showed up to interview our story about, evacuating Hurricane
Mhm.
Milton to come still get married. And so yeah, that's what happened. And but I would say like the story behind that is, I think the biggest lesson for me in that was like stop and you said it earlier, like loose
Mhm.
attachment or
Mhm.
detachment from any outcome,
Right.
because had I been so emotionally invested in the specific outcome
Mhm.
of this wedding and ceremony, I really could have spiraled,
Mhm.
downward. And the fact that I didn't, I was like And I think there's certain things maybe you could be emotionally attached to. And for instance, and for me, it was I want to marry my best friend on 10/10, and I still
Right.
did that. And it looked completely different,
Right.
but like that was the goal. And so I think a lot of people they hold so much emotional attachment to certain outcomes.
Yeah.
Like, we have an election coming up. Can you
Oh
just
god.
imagine the people whose candidates don't win, what they're going to do?
Nope.
They're going to be rioting or posting or telling they're going to talk about it for years because their specific candidate didn't win and they're holding on to this outcome. So that's what I've learned throughout the 34 years of my life is like, you can't control
Nope.
hardly anything actually.
Right, and the more we do, the more we drive ourselves
Yeah.
crazy and make
Yeah.
ourselves sick
Yeah.
trying to control it, and it's
Yeah.
like it really boils down to acceptance.
Yeah.
Like, "Okay, well, this is the present moment. This is what I have in front
Mhm.
of me. What can I do about it now?" So having that resilience to rebound and adapt and pivot and surrender, and I mean, it's so much compiled into one, and
Mm.
you can still celebrate with your family and friends at a later date.
Yeah.
Maybe it's meant for something bigger and greater than you thought it would have been,
Yes, totally.
and
Yeah.
maybe it won't. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, I love that you guys get to do it anyway. And you actually evacuated to one of my favorite areas. I'm from Tallahassee, so we used to
Yes.
go to the beach there a lot, like for
Yeah.
spring
Yeah.
breaks and stuff.
Oh my,
Such a beautiful area.
so
I mean, I've
beautiful.
seen the photos. They are amazing.
Oh my god. It was such a
So,
weird feeling. It was very conflicting because on one end, it's our wedding week, and we obviously want to be excited and celebrate us, and we deserve this, and we're like just so in love. And on the other hand, we're sitting here watching the news every day, looking at this hurricane that's supposed to wipe out our not only our city, but where our
uh,
friends and family are
right,
hunkering down. So it was just, oh, it's such, and even told Tyler, I was like, I still kind of don't feel different after getting
right.
married because I don't know. It didn't happen the way we wanted, and it didn't feel
Yeah,
like this big party and like this huge like, "Oh my gosh," and the weekend up like, "That was so amazing." But yeah, I mean, eventually we'll get there. But I'm
yeah,
married, so
yeah. Well, and maybe it was meant to be that intimate setting,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that intimacy. Did you guys write your own vows?
Yes,
Yes.
we
See,
did.
see
Yeah.
that to me, I think
Yeah.
is so special
Yeah.
and unique. And it was probably a lot more relaxed and intentional than it would have been if there was a big crowd
Yeah.
or,
That was one
so.
thing I was worried about, is, like, I didn't have a wedding planner or anything, so I was kinda worried about, like, okay, logistically, I'm gonna have to be kind of in charge of everything, so
Hmm.
it did work out, just very intimate.
Hmm.
I My sister went down ahead of time, so I just literally got dressed by myself, like, got ready by myself. So I think that's kinda why the feelings of,
Yeah.
like,
All the,
yeah, all the jitters
yeah.
and all the, like, walking out to 100 people and, like, I didn't experience any of that, so I think that's why I just don't
Doesn't feel
feel.
quite
Yeah,
different.
yeah. And Tyler and I are gonna be together forever anyway, so it wasn't like
Right.
"Oh, now that we're married, now it's official." So it wasn't this
Right.
huge leap of change, so
Yeah.
that's alright.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy for you. Sad
Thank
we missed the
you.
wedding,
I
but
know. It wouldn't have been, like, that fun anyway, but
never
you
know.
would have got to see us cry, and it would have been fun, but
Awesome.
yeah.
So, what does life look like for you guys now? What are you envisioning this new chapter? You just moved
Yeah.
and you're podcasting together, you're raising your little guy. Like, what do you foresee? I know that you kind of just from previous conversations kind of have an itch to travel and
Yeah.
explore and
You're
so
probably not gonna get the answer you expect when I have all these plans. I honestly am just surrendering to
yeah,
whatever.
I love
I
that.
really have no plan, and I think
I
that
love it.
comes back to, like, having Tyson, and back in the day, I just would have been like, "Okay, what's," like I said, "What's next? What's next?" And right now, I'm just like, whatever is meant to happen will happen.
Mhm.
I think when you are not expecting anything, the unexpected happens.
Absolutely.
And that just in the recent even years and last couple months actually, like so many things have happened where out of the blue that I could have never seen coming. And I'm like,
Right.
"Oh my god, it's like been crazy actually." And so, like, that is one of the things that I feel like I really have to work on is the control over my life, Tyler's life, our life. Like, okay, like we're holding on so tightly to maybe a certain outcome because we've talked about certain plans that haven't come to fruition yet. And it's like
Right.
we could force and we could control and we could, really push for that, but it hasn't happened. So I'm like,
Right.
everything that actually we have right now that's the biggest blessings in our life have been totally unexpected. So
Right.
it's kind of exciting to just sit back and be like, "Okay, what's gonna happen?" Because it's kind of exciting to not
Right.
know.
Right, and trusting, like, what's meant for you will come,
Yeah.
whether it's travel or a career opportunity
Yeah.
or a shift or whatever, and I'm a firm believer in that same, like, I
Yeah.
just surrender, like, we have a lot of life
Yes.
going
I
on.
know.
I'm not upset that, like, 80% of my fall stuff was canceled due to, like, postponing, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
just feel like I'm in a place that I
Mhm.
really want to create space.
Mm.
And I wasn't necessarily doing that a lot. Like,
Mhm.
I felt like I was,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things when Matt said we were actually at brunch on Sunday, and he's like, You've changed." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I was almost like, "What do you mean I've changed?" Like, I was and I'm like, "No, I was, like, I'd still go, go, go," even
Yeah.
though I was doing it in more of a mindful way.
Yeah.
I was still, like, almost hamster wheeling of, I
Mm.
have this scheduled, and this is going on, and
Mhm.
this is going on. So for it to all fall off and create space, I actually just did a journaling program on this at Resilient Retreat the other day about like detachment and
Yeah.
like what does detachment mean to you? And I talked about my experience with it as like, in some aspects we can think of detachment like there's grief involved and
Mm.
it can have a negative connotation like if you're detaching from a feeling, a place, a thing, if you lose your house and your car, it's like
Yeah.
a lot sometimes you have to process your grief with that, but other times it's like detachment is so I feel like it's healthy either way,
Mhm.
but it can be like, wow, like I'm kind of relieved. And if you are able to be honest with yourself, which I've had,
Mhm.
to work at being honest
Yeah.
with myself on was I really excited about that?
Right.
Or was I doing it because I felt like I should be doing it?
That or you probably maybe subconsciously all that happened because subconsciously you're like, "I really don't want this to happen." But,
Right.
like but you're
Or I
saying,
really
"I'm
just
so
want
excited about
space
all
and I
these
really
things."
just want to
Yeah.
like chill
Yeah.
out. And I feel like I'm always like at kind of like a push and pull with I do
Mm.
love like being
Yeah,
energized by
being
people
social
and
maybe.
events and
Yeah. Yeah.
social, but at the same time it's like I really just want some downtime and want to hang
Yeah.
with my
Yeah,
kids and
yeah.
like I've been like baking with my little guy
Mhm.
on the weekends and like all the things and it's like that
Mm.
stuff that I wasn't necessarily taking time a
Mhm.
lot of time to do
Mhm.
before. I feel like having the 3 teenagers, they kinda just live in their own little world, and my daughter's, like, very into her social realm
Mhm.
these days, which is great, and it's, like, honoring that for them
Yeah.
and not expecting it to be something different. Like you
Yeah.
said, like, just this is the chapter we're in,
Yeah.
and
I
we're
wanna
rolling
do
with
this
it.
experiment, and I think I'm having a lot of friction doing it, but I've always been one to kind of, manifest things by hard work.
Yeah.
And so I really wanna be like, "What can happen if I don't do anything?"
Right.
Just
Seriously.
allowing and being so flowy and free. You know who's really good at this is freaking Hallie, like,
Oh,
she's
Hallie's great at
so good
this.
at I'm like,
Yeah.
"You just sit back and, like,
Right.
things come to you," and, like, I
Yeah.
want that, like, I wanna be, like, hanging out with my son on a random Tuesday and, like, an opportunity come. I don't
Yeah.
wanna, like, force, 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 force and be like, "Okay, I have to grind, grind, grind," and, like 'cause again, I think the things that I've tried to control the most have
Mhm.
failed. It didn't work out, and I've
Right.
had to pivot, but the things that have worked out, like I said, have been completely
Mhm.
unexpected.
I
So,
totally relate to that. That was
yeah.
kind of like last year, I started the podcast. I created Crystal Clear, the business and the coaching, and I was doing all of these things, which was great. And so my intention for this year was I'm just going to see how this all works out. I'll do a retreat if I feel like doing a retreat. I'll coach someone if I feel like
Mm,
coaching and
yeah.
it aligns. Like I'm not seeking anyone. I'm
Right.
not, and it's been really great ebb and flow. Like there's been some fun opportunities that have come along that I wasn't seeking. So I can attest to that. It's really
Mm.
awesome for that. And but then again, I feel like prior to Italy, I was getting to the point where like, okay, well, a lot's kind of manifesting at once. So
Mm.
now I have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And then it all created
Oh,
space and it cleared out on its
yes.
own. And I just kind of trust the
It
process. And
always
so
works
now I
out.
have to make sure not to fill the empty spaces. So that's been
Yeah.
a really big goal of mine. Is just
Yeah.
don't fill the empty space.
What do you do when you have space?
For me,
Mhm.
I love to go for long walks.
Mm, mhm.
Long walks, disconnect like from my phone, from computers, from just take time for myself. If I'm into a book, read a good book, like actually read a good book. But I also like to listen to them too.
Yeah.
So I'll listen. Um, I like to go to Purify. I did like a infrared sweat bed and
Mm.
watch that show, and I never watch like regular TV. Nobody wants
Oh
this.
my god, I've been watching
I'm
that.
obsessed.
It's
Like
so
it is
good.
so
It's a really
good.
good show.
It really is. And the episodes were like 26 minutes. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is the hype about this? And she's like,
How
everyone's
many
watching it.
episodes are there? Because I'm on episode
I,
6, I
I
think.
think it's like 6 or 8.
It's
There's
almost
not a
over.
ton. Oh, I was so sad when it was
Yeah, but
over.
they're making another one, so.
But it was so good for me because I
Yeah.
feel like I've never allowed myself, even when I went to Italy, I read a not or a fiction book. And
Mm.
it was like, I never do that.
Yeah.
And it was like such a fun escape. So I'm learning that it
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be about self-help or
Yes.
self-improvement
Yeah.
or like goal aligned. Like you can just do things
Yeah.
for fun.
Yeah.
And you could just play. Like honestly,
Yes.
love to play. Like do something fun. Like
I
go
have
play with.
lost that over. I'm trying to get back to
Yeah.
that too. I feel like we're on the same wavelength
Yeah.
here.
And it's
Yeah,
like you
just
have to give yourself permission to be like, it's okay
yeah,
to read a
just be
non-self.
silly or go have
Yeah.
fun and go. Like I've been trying to be better about finding events in the area and just hey,
Right.
we're gonna go to this event, and it's like
Yeah.
just for
Okay.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
just go be silly or whatever it is.
Yeah, you know, they just started them back up, I think this week by us, the ranch nights
Oh,
in
where's that?
Waterside, super cute. So
Oh,
I can
look
walk
that
there
up.
actually, which is nice. So
Oh,
Waterside, they have
nice.
like food trucks, they have the park, and
I actually went to
it's like,
Waterside 2 nights ago.
yeah, like
Yeah.
live music, and yeah, it's just really
Fun.
cute.
Yeah. The UTC has a lot of events, so we
Yeah,
live
they
right by
have a
there.
little
So
pumpkin
yeah.
patch thing,
Yeah.
and
So yeah, and I feel like when you are at play, when you are having
yeah,
fun, that's another way
yeah.
that things come in very easily and
Hmm.
flowy. So it's not always about constricting yourself. And like you said, like I would fill my space up with, okay, I'm done for the day. I gotta go do affirmations or read a self-help book or journal or meditate. It's like
Yeah,
sometimes I just want to turn my brain off. And that's why I've been
right.
watching that show at night. Cause I'm like, all right, brain off. This is mindless. I don't have to think about anything other than just
Right.
entertainment coming into my brain.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting how, like you said, when you're playing, I find that like if I'm in a joyful, like goofy state, like if something does come up, it's like, oh, that's okay. Whatever.
Yes.
Doesn't work
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Like,
So were you
yeah.
like that? You're probably like me. Like you're probably like that in your younger years.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's annoying because I feel like self-awareness is so good and I feel like everyone should be self-aware. But there's a part of me where I'm like, I kind of liked when I wasn't self-aware.
Yeah.
Because
I could
then
just
you're
be
not
oblivious and go
yeah.
out for drinks and not give a shit
Yes.
and then just wake up
Yeah.
and
And like then you're
just
like
do whatever.
yeah, and then you're not aware that you're aware. So like just in my early 20s when I was just I feel like I was really living out what I was supposed to do. I was doing
Right.
fitness, I was doing modeling, I was sponsored by a supplement company, and I was just in the flow of life, but I
Yeah.
didn't know I was in the flow of life, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But and then once I had my trauma and I worked through all my trauma, then I'm like, oh, now I recognize that you have to be in the flow. But now the work is to get back in the flow, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like I kind of just wish I didn't know that.
No, I 100% feel that. And
Yeah.
my husband and I have had this conversation.
Mm.
It's like he stopped eating meat for a while. He was kind of like had an aversion to it. And he's like, what am I doing? Like, whatever. If I want a steak at Burns when we go to dinner, I'm gonna eat a steak. Like, I'm not gonna limit myself. And again, it
Mm.
gets back to that. I feel like I was overcoming a lot of like unhealthy boundaries or rigid boundaries I
Yeah.
had. But then I was also at the same time kind of setting an expectation for myself that I had to be like, because I want to be authentic, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like authentically, I do want to help people and I want to do this and I want to calm my nervous system. But I mean, let's be real, like your nervous system can't be perfect all the time. And so that was kind of one of those great awakenings that I had the other day when I started crying over a freaking salad being missing from. I'm like, okay, I'm clearly not okay. Like, I've been okay on the outside, but
Yeah.
apparently I'm not processing on the inside because I haven't been journaling as much as I used to. But it's been nice to take a break.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
And I think everyone needs that. Like you can over mental health yourself.
Yeah.
You can over, just like you can party too much, like you can
Yes.
overindulge in
Yes.
the deep diving of stuff. And
So
sometimes you just
true.
have to let it go and let it flow and
Yeah.
just find something to do to be playful. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what
Yeah,
I've
which
been
is a form
doing.
of therapy as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and doing nothing. Like,
Yeah.
literally on Saturday, I didn't take a walk. I literally stayed in my jams all day. And my husband's like, "Who are you? Like, are
Do
you
you
gonna freak out? Are you
did
gonna
you
be
feel
okay?"
any guilt about that?
None.
That's
I felt
good.
so
Yeah,
good. I
that's
mean,
good.
mind you, on Sunday was a busy day and I took like a 5-mile walk and I loved it. But I genuinely love walking. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like, and this is something that's been a huge shift for me when I was younger. And I think I used it a lot as therapy when I was very young, but I wasn't exercising because I loved my body and because I was, nurturing my body. Like, I
Mhm.
exercised because I either went out the night before and I was like sweating it
Sweating out,
out,
yeah.
or like I wanted to look a certain way or have a 8-pack for the rest of my life. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, you ebb and flow. Like, I'll be 40
Yeah.
in February. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's okay to
Yeah.
give yourself a break and nurture what your body needs now. And from the month of not working out, I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
way less inflamed than I was when I was doing HIIT classes and getting back to strength
I'm like
training,
that too. I
and
haven't since
yeah,
the show we did
yeah,
September 7th. I've done one workout.
yeah.
That's
But you look great,
insane.
and you do how you
Yeah.
feel, though, that's
Yeah,
the
I feel
thing.
great. Yeah, I feel like I do feel less inflamed, which is so funny because
Yeah.
like not lifting weights get less inflamed. A little bit of guilt, a little bit of like I should be doing that, but I'm not.
Mhm.
But I go on walks and I feel good. I don't feel like I look bad, but yeah,
Right.
there's that whole and kind of going back to what you said about the overindulging in self care. Yeah, for years I was so into it, and now I
Mhm.
haven't. Last couple of years I haven't been into it, but now I'm feeling this itch to like get back. And
Mhm.
so I did start talking to someone again, doing some therapy.
Mhm.
So that's been good. I'm like excited. Like I talk to her next week. I'm like, I can't wait to talk to her.
Yeah, I mean, because your life is totally
Yeah,
transitioned. It's
yeah,
not what it used to be, so you're not
yeah.
working through what you were working through then.
Right,
You're navigating a
exactly.
whole new ballgame.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and that's healthy.
yeah.
And actually, I feel like for 3 weeks, I didn't talk to my life coach therapist just because I was out of town. She was out of town. I was sick. She was sick. And so we just didn't, no one had power,
Yeah.
um, didn't connect. So I talked to her this morning, actually, for the first time in a while. And it was like almost like a friendly catch up. It was
Mm.
like, but it felt good to
Mhm.
just process life and
Yeah.
talk about like the wins. Like I was telling her about the whole situation that, that I went through last week. And she's like, and, how did Matt respond to you being like, "I'm crying over a salad"? He goes like, "I'm sorry, babe, I'll bring it home." Whereas, like, before, both of us may have been, like, blaming or defensive or, like, it would have
Mm.
looked different 2
Mm.
years ago than it did now, and it was like, wow, I didn't even take a time to
Mm.
really stop and think about that little win of, wow, we handled that way
Yeah.
differently
Yeah. So you say it was a
than
win for both of you?
it was a win for both of
Yeah,
us.
that's good.
And it's one of those like little things that it's like I don't want to take those wins for granted. Like
Yeah.
just because things are in a really good flow and I feel like our relationship is really like progressed into something very beautiful because we both
Oh.
have our own creative outlets.
Yeah.
We both have our own like work career goals, but we also have like a different healthier level of communication
Mm.
and compassion, like you were saying, that
Mm.
compassion and empathy for each other
Mhm.
that we didn't really always have. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like we went through a period where we were kind of almost like, well, if you're going to do this, I'm going to do it. Like, we were one upping each other. And that's not a healthy
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
We're both
Yeah.
competitive
Mm,
and like
mm, mm.
it can be a great thing,
Yeah.
but not when it's
Yeah.
against each other
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like towards each other or whatever you want to call it.
I'll be real
So,
honest. Like Tyler and I, like we've been together almost 4 years. We have a baby. We did get married, but yeah, we still have a lot of work to do. Like
mhm.
a
We all
lot.
do. I mean,
Yeah,
we all
and
do. It's a
and I feel
progressive
like
journey.
people. It's like some people might be like, "Well, why are you getting married then?" And it's just because at the end of the day, he's the person I want to work it out with. Or he's the
Right.
person I want to go do all the work with.
Right.
So yeah, we still have a lot of work to do. I'm excited to get to the stage where you are.
I mean, again, we
Yeah.
still have our
Yeah.
individual and work together, but
Yeah.
it's come so far. So
Yeah.
to look at well, I'm sure you could do the same. Look at where we were, both
Mm.
individually and together, and then how we've been able to progress. But I mean, it's been
Mm.
rough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not all rainbow and sunshine.
Yeah.
It's just getting to a place that you're like, "Okay, I can accept you for" and I think for me, it's
Mm.
releasing the fact that we're not on the same journey.
Yeah.
That, like,
Yeah.
our individual career
Mm.
goals and
Yeah.
spiritual goals or, like, we're different people. I think
Mhm.
sometimes, especially in the beginning of a relationship, you can feel so connected and everything's
Yeah.
passionate and all the things, but then when you have a lot of real life happening in
Yes.
between, it's like, "Okay." So we have to choose each other and choose
Mhm.
to communicate and choose to evolve. And there's been times that we've both reclused and
Mm.
projected and, put our
So good
own
to
shit on each
hear.
other.
So good to hear.
Oh my God. Are you kidding? And I mean, and it's just like, and it's hard. And so I
Yeah.
think, but he's been very open to reading and doing a lot. I know you and I have read a lot of the same books, like The
Yeah.
Untethered Soul, and he's actually taking this into his company. So he's talking to the executives
Mm.
and taking them on retreats about nonviolent communication. Have you read that book?
Okay, so you posted it, and then I
Oh,
downloaded the
so
audio.
good.
Yeah.
So good. Oh,
I
his
I have
audio
not
is
done
good.
with it
He's
yet,
got a
but
great
yeah,
voice.
yeah.
And I also have the book because I like to highlight too
Yeah.
as I'm listening. That book taught me so much, and I mentioned it in a couple podcasts now, but it taught me to, instead of like in conversation, especially, I feel like your partner, your significant other, whoever it is you're closest to, it could be a best friend, whoever you talk
Mhm.
to and you interact with the most, you take the most personally.
Yeah.
So we've all heard, and I will say it all the time, like, don't take it personally, but
Yeah.
sometimes some things you just do.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
you
know.
know,
And they're like, "Well," and they're looking at you like, "Why are you
right, this
do"
is my shit. Why are
Yeah.
you upset? I don't
Yeah,
know, because it feels like it's mine too. And it's like,
yeah.
okay, maybe we need to healthily detach
Yeah,
some things.
yeah, yeah.
But it really taught
Mhm.
me to, instead of observing and evaluating the other person, like, wow, I feel like he was snippy or he was short. It was like, what do I need? So
Mm.
it really taught me to look inward and
Mm.
and reflect on like what my needs were.
Yeah.
Like, what do I need out of the situation right now?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
him coming home at 8, 9 o'clock, which was happening a lot prior to going to Italy?
Mm.
And, if he comes home later, then Brody wants to stay up later.
Mhm.
And then, he's working and doing his best. It's not like he's intentionally like just sneaking away from the house. I mean, he's
Yeah.
literally working and trying to manage his podcasting business, all
Yeah.
the things. And so instead of being like, oh, you're home so late or blah, 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 you could be doing
Mhm.
this, or like, instead of coming from a lack mentality, like I
Mm.
could easily do, and it definitely crossed my mind and
Mhm.
spiraled for a few times. Don't get me wrong. It was like, wow, it really taught me to be like, I would really love it if you came home earlier, at least like 3 days a week. Like, say we divvied it out and
Mm.
have these like conversations. So then he realizes the value in him coming home earlier means Brody gets to bed earlier, which means we get more time together. And so it's that
Mhm.
intentional connection time
Yeah.
is what I needed. Like, I
Yeah.
missed that time with him. I missed that time by myself.
Mm.
Because I know,
Yeah.
now that you're a mom,
Yeah.
like
Oh my
sometimes you
god.
just need that
Yeah.
time to yourself.
Yes.
And so just realizing that was on me to express my needs. But I think we grow
Mm.
up in a society that we're not taught to do that.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
We're not, I mean, that could be a whole
Well, not
series.
even needs, just, feelings and emotions
Yeah.
too. We had a similar situation this week, and I don't know what you think about this, but, like, okay, so something happened and it triggered me. It
Mhm.
it revealed a trigger in me,
Mhm.
of a certain thing, and not to say he intentionally did that, but, like, what is your thoughts on, like, if someone triggers you, is it, like, your responsibility? Obviously, I've worked through this trigger a lot, and it's not as
Right.
bad. Like, it used to be, like, very,
Mhm.
very deep, but now it's like, "Okay, that really bothers me," but I can get over it quicker, but, like, what is your thoughts on, like, is that your responsibility to, like, let that trigger come up and not say anything? Or is it your
Mhm.
responsibility to, like, tell them, "Hey, what you did just triggered me, and now I feel like this, and you kinda made me feel like that, although you're not responsible for my feelings. I have to let you know that
Right.
you did this and it did this." I don't know what your feelings are
Yeah.
about that.
So, yes, absolutely. So I think it's all of that, to be honest. And I've navigated it in very different ways over the years. So for me, when that happens, and it happens because I feel like triggers are just unhealed parts of
Yeah.
ourself,
Yeah,
like
of
parts that
course.
still
Yeah.
need a little nurturing,
Yes.
TLC, and sometimes they catch you off guard, and those are the worst because then you're like, "Where the fuck is this coming from?"
Yes,
And then
like,
you just
more
want to like,
work to
and like hopefully
do.
you're aware before you react, but it doesn't always happen, like the crying over the damn salad. Um, so what I try to do in that approach is be like, whew, like, okay, like there is some like serious turbulence building up. I'm aware that I'm not okay. And then I try to just kind of evaluate like where could this be coming from? Like is
Mm.
it in this moment with him right now? Because sometimes we have conditioning and our partners can do things multiple times that brings up something, but like what
Yeah.
is the root of that? So I
Yeah.
always try to get to the root of it. So that's usually when I go to my journal
Yeah.
and just kind of write down like this is the way I'm feeling. I'm accepting the way I'm feeling because I've gone through ebbs and flows of like guilting myself or shaming myself
Mm.
for feeling some
Yeah.
kind of way when it's you should be more healed than this by now.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that
Yeah.
you can't should yourself on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not fair.
Yeah.
So I try not to get down on myself and allow myself to feel my feelings and then to express myself and just be like, I'm clearly not okay. Like I'm
Mhm.
feeling some kind of way. I need a break from you and from everyone
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
because I'm in the space where I could say something that I
Yeah.
probably won't really mean
Yeah.
and try to take as much accountability as
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah.
Does it always happen? No. Is there some projection sometimes?
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, everyone loses their shit and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's just finding that forgiveness in myself when that
Yeah.
happens and trying to explain it to him as best as possible because sometimes he's like, "Oh." But then
I
sometimes there's
know.
stuff that it's like, did you do that
I
on purpose? Or
know.
like, I feel like it's more with my 14-year-old daughter at this point that she
Oh, no.
knows the
Oh,
things
no.
that tick.
Yeah.
But it's like also just having the awareness to just be like, you know what? Sometimes you just gotta let shit go. And like,
Mhm.
is it worth? And sometimes I take a step back and I'm like, is it worth my energy at this point in time?
Mm, mhm.
Like, why?
Mm.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah,
Because it's hard.
we're going through these cycles. It's a cycle now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just like it's the same thing every
Yeah.
time. Every time something happens like big and extreme, it's the same root issue. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when you gotta like, okay, we gotta work this out. What is the root issue here? So
So you're aware of the root issue.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it on both parts or one or the other? And we don't have
Um
to dig into it if you don't want
it's
to.
really on it's we're not doing the same it's both parts, I
Right.
believe. I believe it's I'm trying to do something and he's not allowing, obviously very like unconsciously, not
Right.
like I'm not going to allow you to do that,
Right.
but yeah, it's like an emotional wound for me and then it's an emotional wound for him and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like almost like my trigger is triggering his trigger.
Mm-hmm. When it probably is.
Yeah, so it's like I'm doing something and then how you respond is a trigger for me and then but I feel like the thing that I'm trying to get him to do is a trigger for him. It's weird. It's a
Mm-hmm.
weird
No, I get it. I
dynamic,
mean, we've
but
gone through that. We've been together for
yeah.
12 years,
Yeah.
almost 12 years. And it's been happening since the very beginning and it just
Yeah.
happens in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me, it used to be like financial. Like I used to be very, like I wanted to be independent. I wanted to make sure that I was taking care of myself and so like getting out of that masculine energy for
Yeah.
me.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
Woo!
Okay.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yep, it is a whole other actually, we should really do one on feminine
Yeah.
masculine.
Yeah.
That has been a challenge. I mean, whether it comes to, like, my physical fitness or my
Mhm.
financial freedom or
Mhm.
my ability to be independent
Yep.
and even nurture my body and my kids the way
Yeah.
like, in that feminine
Yes.
energy is very different. It takes a whole different approach. So I constantly have to remind myself, like, what energy field are you in right now? And allowing
Mm.
him to have masculine energy
Yes.
because I
Yes.
want him to.
Yes.
And it's like if I'm overbearing things with this, like, I can take care of myself, I
Mm.
can do it. And when it's like, well,
Mm.
okay, like,
Mm.
what's the purpose of, I mean, not the purpose of us, but you know what I mean? I don't want to take that from him. And
Yeah.
so that's one thing, a pattern I realized of myself is like if I felt unsafe,
Mm.
I put on the masculine energy.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
and that was
The
a
armor and
huge
yeah,
PTSD
I can
pattern for
yeah.
me.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. Like, I need safety. You're not
Yes.
providing safety. You're not telling the whole truth. How can, and it's like, well,
Mm.
I don't feel safe telling the whole truth because you're being reactive. And it's like,
Yes.
that's,
Oh
and it
my
wasn't
gosh.
anything crazy. It was
Yeah.
just like little things.
Yes. Girl,
So,
girl. This is like right in the thick of it right now. But yeah, we
yeah.
could definitely do an episode on masculine and feminine. And I was recently had this realization a couple months ago and I to the point where it's weird. I love healing because you'll just have these light bulb moments and it's like, okay, wait, this actually might be this. And it's like just comes out of
Yeah.
nowhere. And so we researched it together and yeah, it turns out we are just kind of in a role confusion right now
Mm-hmm.
because he's predominantly more nurturing, empathetic, and compassionate to everyone in his life, friends, family, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm more decisive, logic, and assertive. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what masculine energy is. And that's just where we are, where we've gotten. So I'm like,
Right.
you want me to be more feminine and I want you to be more masculine. So like that's the work we got to do. Is like I got to let go and like
Right.
let go of control and but you also have to learn to take control because it's not I'm
Mm-hmm.
not withholding it and you're trying to take it from me.
Mm-hmm.
you actually need to develop that skill as well, and I need
Right.
to develop the skill of letting go. It's weird.
Mhm.
So it's a weird, like, you have the work to do and I have the work to do too, but we're trying to find that, like, harmony and balance of the energies because you need both a little bit. You
Absolutely.
don't wanna have all masculine, all feminine, so
Right, and I feel like that's been a thing for Matt and I is, like, both came in with, like, strong competitive masculine
you
energy, so
did,
we've both had to work
yeah.
on having that, 'cause although I feel like I do have a very empathetic, compassionate side, it just dep like, now it's more so out out there and nurturing
Yeah.
and everything than it used to be because I realized that was, like, a survival mode trait that I
Yes.
had,
Yeah.
and so me feeling more comfortable in being in that vulnerable space of I'm just not going to do anything on a Saturday and
Yeah,
it's really
yeah. That's
okay.
kinda
And like you
tapping
said,
into
like
that
I'm,
feminine.
you know, motherhood, that's a
Yeah.
feminine role.
Yeah.
And my mom, I love her, but she wasn't around a
Mm.
ton when I was a kid. My grandmother was, and I feel like there's a different, and you're close with your
Yeah.
grandmother
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So you understand. It's like, I think it's different coming from that role than it is the maternal role because I almost felt like I was her mother in some or older sister or
So you
something
had to
in some
grow up real
ways,
quick.
very quick,
Yeah.
which was helpful when you're assertive and
Yes. Yeah.
decisive and
Yeah.
you don't always have time to be emotional then.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that gave me back then I think I gave myself permission to just kind of push through, and that's where, like,
Mm.
the hardworking, like, I felt like
Yes.
I needed to be doing something all the time, hustling to be worthy,
Yes.
and grew up around
Yes.
that kind of
Yep.
atmosphere, and, so I've had to let myself let that go and
Mm.
be like, "It's okay," like,
Mm.
and the more I've
It's
let down my
exhausting.
guard it's
Yeah,
exhausting, the
yeah.
more I've let down my guard and I've allowed my husband to come into this role, for lack of a better word, I don't really like the word role, but you know what I
Mhm.
mean, more into that energy of like, like I'm okay with the fight. I don't always have to be like super hustling, working all the time
Yeah.
because what is that doing? It's taking away from my kids.
Yeah.
And if I don't have to do that, why am I choosing to do
Yeah.
that in this
Yeah.
stage? And it was showing me that that was just an area I still had to let go and have
Mm.
had a lot of growth to do. So it
I'm in
was
that right now.
right.
Yeah,
And
so
it's hard
yeah.
because it is such deep rooted conditioning. So
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
really tried to practice non-judgment recently. I mean, I've always tried to practice it, but I've caught myself big time of just like
Mm.
observe it within yourself
Mm.
without judging it.
Oh, you're talking about judging yourself.
Yeah, judging
Okay.
myself
Yeah.
for like letting go and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I when that's just the easiest thing. It's like I feel like I've always been very non-judgmental of other
Yeah.
people, or if
Yes.
I have been, it's because it's stuff inside me that I was judging. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what just judgment really
Isn't
is
it so
anyway.
crazy that we're, like, the meanest to ourselves?
Oh, it's terrible.
It's so weird. It's
Yeah,
like
and
some
so
person that's going through the exact same thing, I'd be like, "Oh my god, like, but you're this, you're that, you're,
mhm.
and then, like, flip it to yourself.
Like,
It's
suck it up, buttercup.
yeah,
Get shit
it's
going. What's
you
easy,
should be
when it
ashamed.
changed for me is when I had
Mm.
Tatum, is
Mm.
because it's like, how would you coach her through this?
Mm.
Like, how do you want her to speak to
Yeah.
herself? So it really taught me to be more just lovable with
Yeah.
myself. And then 10 years later, Brody, even more so.
Mm.
And just letting go of that. Now that she's a teenager, making sure that she has the awareness and the
Mm.
intrinsic confidence to
Yeah.
get through things that I didn't necessarily have at her
Yeah,
age. And it's
that's
so funny because
awesome.
she's like, "Mom, you're like, you would be so great." And I'm like, I was not like that at 14. Like, it's
Mm.
taken me a long
Yeah,
time
yeah,
to
yeah.
have the intrinsic
Mm.
confidence and the, ability to get up in front of a crowd and not care. And like,
Yeah.
if there's a hair out of place, like, who
Like the no
cares?
shame.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Oh,
no
man.
shame, the
Yeah.
no holding on to things, the not people pleasing and
Yes. Yeah.
all the
Oh my god.
things.
We are I feel like I'm looking in a mirror
Yeah, well,
because
this is why we get along.
we are, I mean, and it's so funny, like I can see everything now from a bird's eye view of my life
Yeah.
so far and just the way everything happened, the timing of everything. And yeah, I think for one, having a child is for one, I think the timing was perfect because I have done the healing work and now I get to do things differently than my parents
Mhm.
did. Where if I would
Right.
have had a kid before 30, I probably would have done exactly what they did,
Mhm.
which, I'm trying to break some generational curses here.
Yep.
And then yeah, just that empathy and getting into that femininity. And like I said, I think I was gifted a child for that
Mhm.
reason to
Yeah.
help me a little bit, obviously to for him as well, but
Yeah.
it's
I'm a
awesome.
believer in that.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
they kinda choose us in the spaces
Mm,
where we need to grow. I feel
yes.
that very much so about my kids, and they're very different. So it's like Tatum gave me what I needed in that chapter. She was
Yes.
super laid back and low
Yeah.
key and just like and Brody, he's just a whole different animal, and I love it.
But now you
And
have the, like,
but I
patience
have
for
that,
that.
and I have the patience for it, but he's also so I feel like he's like a new spirit. I don't know if anyone believes in reincarnation, but I feel like Tatum's like an old soul. Like, she's
Oh,
been
yeah.
here before, she's lived many lives, she's wise beyond her years, she
Yeah.
understands things that, like, most adults don't understand. And then I
Wow.
have Brody that's just this joyful,
Mm.
free-spirited, we pull up into a very crowded place, "Mom, look at all the friends." Whereas some kids would be
Aw,
terrified because it's like,
yeah.
"What's going on?"
Yeah.
But I think that that's has a lot to do with the way Matt and I have learned to reparent. We really
Yeah.
had like a second
Yeah,
opportunity.
that's awesome.
Like, and the poor teenagers, they're probably like, well, he gets a whole different set of group than we do. But it's good. It's been their journey. They
Yeah.
have two sets of parents. So a good thing it
Yes.
balances out.
It is crazy how even if you have kids very close in age, you
Yeah.
can change so much during those years. You can
Hmm.
parent so different with each kid. Like,
Yeah.
I have 3 siblings. My I would say my oldest brother is different, and then me and my middle brother, we're pretty similar, and then my sister's different. And it's like
Hmm.
because we each got a different
Yeah.
experience because my brother got a lot of attention and then I came along and then, so, it's just
Hmm.
we compare and difference. Now I'm like, what would I do with the second child? How would that be?
Well, I didn't plan either of my
Mm,
babies, and it took me 10 years to do it twice. So I'll just
yeah.
say that. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not a
I
planner like that.
know,
I
I
can plan a
know.
lot of things that I can never plan for, but very grateful, very blessed that they both did.
Yeah.
And then I got 2 bonus boys in the whole
Mm.
mix, and that's a whole different challenge,
Mm.
being like a bonus parent, especially in like the
Mm.
teenage years and learning boundaries with all of that
Yes. And
and just
where you or okay, what can I say? What can't I say?
right. And
Yeah.
I've just I've learned over the years, and again, relinquishing control,
Mhm. Mhm.
because my husband worked a lot more when they were younger. So I was the primary one home with them a lot.
Mm.
But I realized having a great relationship with their mother was key. Because
Mm.
then I could just call her and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, are you seeing this at your home? Like, how do you navigate this
Yeah.
situation?" And I felt like with blended families, I can understand if you have cause for concern, but for us, it was always like, it's not worth it to not
Yeah.
have a relationship with
Right.
that other person,
Yeah.
because it keeps it more consistent with the kids. It keeps it more open. And, have we had our ebbs and flows over the year?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it really helps to just have that. And like, that's their mother, that's their safe place.
Yeah.
And so, like, how would they feel if I wasn't comfortable honoring and respecting their safe place? So
Mm.
that was huge for me, as like being a bonus parent, is just understanding, like, the key is
Mhm.
communication.
Mhm.
And so it's taught us a lot over the
Yeah.
years. I feel like with my ex-husband, it took a little longer, I think. I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't think it was like a man thing or
Yeah.
whatever, but it took
Longer
a
for
little
what? The
just
communication?
a longer for it to be like more settled. I think maybe it's just personality wise,
Yeah.
acceptance and stuff like that, a little different. And but yeah,
It really shows someone's emotional maturity. If you're dealing with step parents, baby mama, daddies, whatever, it's
yeah,
like when someone doesn't want to have a good relationship or intentionally causes drama, I just don't understand that.
I don't
I'm
get
glad
it.
I've never really had to mess with that or be
Yeah,
involved in that, but like I have friends that do, and I'm like, golly, it's
I
just like,
know. It
what is
makes
the
me sad for the
purpose?
kiddos,
Yeah.
but hopefully they'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
I feel like what I've learned on my healing journey is like we get stuck at certain ages where there's trauma. Like, I feel
Mm.
like if,
Emotionally, like,
emotionally,
okay,
like
yeah.
sometimes like our emotional maturity gets stunted at a
Yes.
certain age.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And be and then it takes us a while. Like, I know when rebellious teenage injustice trigger Crystal's coming out, and I know when
Mm.
little Crystal that
Mhm.
needs safety and security and
Yeah.
love and intentional time and unconditional just love and acceptance comes out. Like, I know that with
Mm.
myself.
Mm.
And so it's been able to help me realize with other people. Like, if my husband's having a day or something gets to him, I'm like, okay, like, I can help navigate this if I understand
Yes.
which part of him is coming out, or the
Yes.
kids even,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
It's
people like your good friends, like you
mm.
I don't know. I feel like I've
When
been
you
able to
have
observe it
the
more.
self-awareness, like I was saying earlier, when you're kind of in the know, you can observe other people's behavior and reactions and not, for one, take so much offense to it,
Right.
for one, and then just be like, "Oh, okay. So that's where that's coming from," you know?
Yeah.
And before I was like that, it was just like everything felt like an attack. It was
Mhm.
always, "Well, you're attacking me, and you're mean, or you're doing this," when I'm like, "Okay." Like, now I could see the deeper rooted issues
Right.
coming through that they might not, I mean, they might not see, and I think some people, I don't know, do you feel like there's, like, where you kinda be half in, half out of self-awareness a little
Oh,
bit?
100%.
Yeah, where someone
Yeah.
could be like, I don't know, they say, "Oh, I know that," but they
But th
don't
they're
I
not willing to they're willing to recognize it in you, but not willing to recognize it in themselves, and I've
Yeah.
gone through that myself. I've been able to observe that in other people,
Yes.
and I think the key to that is just taking the ego out of it,
Mm.
because I think our ego gets bruised, like,
Mm.
the compli even, like and have you read Four Agreements?
Yes, a long time ago,
Yeah,
though. Yeah.
same, so
Yeah.
good, but it's, like, one of the big things that I always try to remind myself is don't take it personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, the good stuff or the bad stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I know there's times in my life where it's like, all these things are going great and you're getting compliments and this is happening and
Mm.
everything's in the flow and coming to you. And then there's lull times where
Yeah.
then you're just cruising and that's okay. But if we let our ego take over, it's like, well, why isn't this happening? Or
Mm.
like it gets bruised if someone's not complimenting us or if someone
Yeah.
has something to say about something we're doing. It's like, well, is this my authentic, like my real, true, authentic self? Or is it
Mm.
like the false sense of self that needs that
Yeah.
security to
Yeah.
bind to?
Yeah. It's
So
so hard.
it's so
It's
hard.
so hard to navigate all that, but it's better to be self-aware than not, I will say.
It is. And I think for
Mm.
people to really understand that it's ebbs and flows. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how many books you've read, it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
many, yoga retreats you've gone on. Like we
Mm.
still will all have our moments. And
Mm.
it's just that constant like opportunity
Mm.
to observe new things
Mhm.
about ourselves
Yeah.
and learn new things about ourselves. Like
Yeah.
I learn something new about myself every
Yeah.
day if I allow
Yeah.
it, but I
Yeah.
have to be in a place to allow it
Yes. Yeah.
for it to happen.
Mhm.
So,
Kinda,
yeah.
you were at the speech that I did for Bluebird, and I
Yes.
like, kind of the 3 points that I like to say with that, like, when you said allow, like, kind of what I go back to is I just say I have 3 A points, and the first is accept, like, you have
Mhm.
to get to that first point of acceptance of what's going on in your life, whether it be
Right.
like, "Okay, I need this is happening," like, I'm accepting the fact that in some form or fashion, I need some sort of help. And then there's the acknowledgement part where
Mhm.
that's acknowledging that you have a role to play in your own
Mhm.
suffering. No one's doing anything to you, and you have a role to play in it, whether you like, that's why it's called acknowledgement, 'cause it's like, "Okay, I acknowledge that this happened, this is why this happened," it kinda just snowballs. And then the third piece is the awareness, and then
Mhm.
that's like the daily awareness.
Mhm.
That's the daily part of, okay, like being aware of the emotions that stir up, what may have caused it, your triggers, and then going through that deeper rooted healing to get to those triggers. And so yeah, that's like my little flow that I do where I'm like,
I
okay,
love it.
accept. And I've had to do that for multiple different areas
Oh,
of
yeah.
trauma. Like, it's like, okay, I did that for this section. Now that's
Yeah.
kind of figured out. Now we got another section and
Yep.
that's figured out. So,
I love that, and
yeah.
even to add another one onto that is the accountability factor.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, the
That's the fourth
accountability
one.
and
Yeah.
that, it kind of flows with the awareness and the,
Yes.
um, acknowledgement, I feel like together combined is the
Yeah. Right.
accountability,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
true. I
Yeah.
mean, we're all in charge of our own story, right?
Yeah. I just see
Like
a lot of people that want to avoid pain. It's like
mhm,
they don't want to, and they want to avoid themselves. And it's like,
right.
no one, I think the hardest part is getting to that step one. That's the hardest part. Once you get to
Mhm.
the step one, the other two are kind of easy.
Right. I mean, and if you think about it, we never really avoid it. It
Yeah.
just comes out in different areas, whether it's
Right.
like in traffic when you're freaking out on the
Right.
person or
Yes.
like people feel it regardless if they want to or not.
Right,
And our
exactly.
coping mechanisms is just like, learning how to cope with it all
Yeah, yeah,
and accepting that it's okay and everyone
yeah,
has it.
yeah.
So love
I
it. I feel like
love
we could go on
it.
and on and
I
on forever.
know,
And
I
we'll have to
know.
do this again. I really do want to
Yes.
do another one on masculine,
Me too,
feminine
me
roles.
too, me too.
That sounds fantastic. So, is there anything you would like to leave our listeners with today?
Um, well, I always ask my guests on our podcast, like, what is one thing you know for sure? I love asking that. Like, if there's one thing that you could scream from a mountaintop if everyone in the world was listening to you, I just think like a self-healing journey is the most important thing you could do.
Right.
Getting to that step one, getting to the acceptance, getting into the like just let go and realize like you will never be perfect and you cannot avoid pain or stressors in life because they're going to happen. I think it's much more important to learn how to deal with them and build that resiliency and not just be able to come or overcome setbacks, but like build that like rewiring your brain to be able to handle them
Right.
better. So step one, just like get to that acceptance piece of like, you know what? Okay, I need help.
Right.
And then get there.
Love it.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you,
All
Kayla.
right.
It's been
Thank
a
you,
joy, and it went by really
Crystal.
fast. I just
How
glanced
long
over
has
and
this
I'm like,
been?
it's
Ooh,
only
we're
over the
almost to like an hour on the dot.
I know. I feel like we need to keep chatting until we
I
get
know.
to exactly
I
60
know.
minutes. But
Play the Jeopardy music.
but thank you. And everyone, check out her podcast, Habits You
Yeah.
Love. How many episodes do you have now?
I think we have like 116 or
That's
17.
awesome.
Yeah. It's averaging out to once a week
That's awesome.
since I've started. So yeah.
That's great. And that's a lot. Like
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
underestimate how much work that really is. So
Yes, I want to
kudos
do
to
it
you.
more. And that goes back to like I need to do it more, but I'm just, this is what I can do right now. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, keep doing it, girl. Proud of you.
Yes.
I'm
Thank
excited that you
you.
came to join me today. And
Yes.
that's a
All
wrap. See you guys
right.
later.
See y'all.